So why don't I just kind of open it up here and see if anybody has any questions or,
Okay, I'm originally from Germany, and I was very much involved in activism in Germany. It was mostly nuclear power and peace movement during the end of the Cold War. So our approach to all of this is a little bit more aggressive, maybe because we're a different culture, I don't know. But my question, I mean, first of all, I want to tell an incredible story. But number two, why do you not, or why did you not mention property rights and property value for the people affected by fracking? Because to me, as an immigrant here, you know, if you get people on that, you know, I think, you know, people are all about their, you know, their rights to property. And I think that is something that I would have mentioned in my fight for justice, because, you know, the environment is lost on many people. But when it comes to money, then all of a sudden everybody wakes up.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, one answer, and Patricia has an answer also, is just that, like, there's so many nuances to this debate, and, like, yeah, there's split mineral rights, and, like, it's so deep and potentially boring, and I didn't want to, like, kind of become a lecturer or, like, make it too academic. Like, ultimately, cinema is about story, and I wanted to make this really, like, a first-person perspective, so there's so many topics and subtopics, and like you said, most people think about property rights and value, and the environment is more abstract, and that's why I wanted to kind of shed the light on the public commons that's getting destroyed. You know, the tragedy of the commons is our air and our water, so that's, I think, why.
And it's interesting you say you're from Germany, because we were actually interviewed for what they said was the German 60 Minutes. It's like Bagels, I don't know. I really don't know, I'm sorry. But the reason they were interviewing us was because of the energy crisis in Germany. And they were looking for alternatives, and fracking is, you know, it's a very effective manner, very quick manner to get minerals to produce energy. But they were interviewing us and interviewing Lucy Molina in Commerce City. She does a lot of work around Suncor, because we were the worst case scenario. And so I feel like at this point, there's just so much behind it, but it's just so wrong that even people around the world are looking at us because it's so wrong.
okay?
I used to work in the St. Green Valley School District, and I saw a lot of schools from the district, you know, on screen. And what role does the district play, or can they play as a political entity for some of this?
So I just had a meeting this spring with the superintendent, the attorney for the district, the president of the school board, and they disrespected me during the meeting. They yelled at me during the meeting. They said that I can't go in there asking for things because I'm not objective. To which I replied to, I'm just trying to drop my son off at school.
Sorry.
So and it's getting harder and harder because the film stopped 6 years ago. Now we're still working there, still wearing the shirt. But now more and more people are coming to me with their stories. We have teachers that used to work in the building that have miscarriage. We have 4 teachers that have cancer. We had one that just recently left because she said, I can't do school in chemo. We have children who's, you know, they're getting sick, but nobody knows what it is. There's so many kids that have allergies. My nephew, he'll have to go get, once the school year starts, it's always his histamine treatments, 3 shots a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which causes him to lose school. So things are getting progressively worse and not better. And the school district, the county commissioners, everybody's still against us.
I thought you did make a comment in your film about not having a lot of vocal variety because there were not landowners around your particular school. Just as a comment to her question, was that part of it is that your school didn't have a lot of clout because there was no landowners? I know I did hear that in the film at one point, that there was less, you had less voice because it wasn't landowners, more.
So basically the way that the rules are is that only landowners, property rights owners, and anyone directly impacted by the site can make comments. So at the time, even then at the time, the school board did bring forth to the commissioners, the Weld County commissioners, their concerns about air, not necessarily air pollution, but noise pollution, diesel trucks, things like that. So very valid reasons, but nobody ever said no. So we had the school board and the superintendent and things like that bringing their concerns about impacts like the ones I just mentioned, but no one ever opposed the site. And later on we had conversations with Matt Lepore, who used to be the chair of the COGCC, and he said he waited 9 months for somebody to say no before he approved those permits. And no one ever said no.
I was really impressed by how many people, especially since you made this film on your own, by how many different special interviews that you had with people from all walks of life. You know, how did you manage that? I mean, how did you make all those connections and get all those people to be on film?
Yeah, well, the great thing about making a film about a community of activists is that they're already a community, you know, and it's not like I'm like the one. It's like they're all connected already, and they were very generous. And it's actually, that's like what's so heartbreaking about needing to make a 90-minute film is that you have to cut out all these heartbreaking, amazing stories. Like when we went to the COGCC, every month you'd have hours of testimony from people having negative impacts on their respirators and health impacts. And, you know, there's so many stories that couldn't have been represented here, but that we know because we know them and we meet them, and there are these testimonial hearings where you just meet all of these impacted people, and then it's very easy to meet these people. But what's heartbreaking is like even like kind of narrowing it down to who am I going to film, and then in the edit room who is going to make it into the film, and then of those interviews which are the slices of their story, because there's just hours and hours and hours of these impacts, and it's unfortunate because it doesn't really do it justice, because the true justice is hundreds of hours of the truth. And luckily, I appreciate you all watching the film and feeling it, and so that's what we can do. Yeah.
I will also add on, one of the reasons Brian was able to talk to so many people was because he kept coming back. He was right there with us the whole time, and it wasn't until recently when I told him, it wasn't until we like delivered the ballots and everything, you're still hanging out, that I trusted him completely. Because before that, it's just like, who's this guy that's trying to film everything?
The one woman, Ann Lee, she's like, I want to tell you more, but I'm still not sure if you're a mole. It's like, fair, you're getting sued, I'm getting sued, like, it's a wild world out here. So, and I got really paranoid, like going on dates, like, is this woman actually a mole from the industry? Like, trying to steal my footage? It's so real. Oh my God. It's really intense.
How did you finance this?
I'm a videographer, so I had the equipment, I had the training from film school, and then I had a live-in personal assistant job where it was very flexible, and so I got like a stipend to like be a mental health assistant to a client, and so I just did it. I just showed up, and then like random things like my car got hail damage, and it's like I know where that money's going. So it was like the universe was just like, here's a little bit of money, keep going.
Yeah.
What are the outlets that people can actually view this? Put it out there.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I want to put it out there, and the distribution landscape is very strange right now with the internet. But we're going to get it out there one way or another. Right now, we're doing community screenings, like communities, churches, activist groups. They can host screening, like through the website. They can contact me, and there's been a number of screenings, maybe 15 or 20. And we have one next month, and like there's going to be, if you want to host one with your church or with your school or wherever, you can sign up to do that. And then eventually it will be available for streaming more like the end of this year. We're going to probably independently distribute it. But we also want to talk to distributors, but it's a landscape that I'm not super familiar with. We don't have any money to hire experts to do this, but we're hoping to talk to sales agents who can get us to distribution. Ultimately, it's a very grassroots movie about a grassroots movement, and so contact me, follow along on our email list, frackingthesystem.com, get on our email list, and you'll get notifications once a month about where there are upcoming screenings, and when we do release it for like online screening.
And if you know any super reach people, please have them contact Brian.
We need the help, yeah.
We're in Breckenridge, y'all.
It's
So.
my first film, and I don't have those connections, so if you do.
What's your next mission?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so this I just kind of fell into, as you saw, like, I was like, okay, scientists are warning us about climate change, what can I find out? And I was very blessed to find this story. I was blessed to be sued so that I would have to commit to making this film. But I kind of just fell into it, and now I'm really thinking like, people are asking me, well, if we're not going to frack, what are we going to do for energy? It's like, that's a great question. Our whole society has been built on oil and gas. So how are we going to live without oil and gas, or fossil-free, carbon-free way? So that's a documentary that I've been researching, but also a solution to the problem that you saw in the film about ballot initiative misinformation, political advertising. That's why money in politics. You raise money so you can, as a politician, you raise money so you can buy ads and brainwash voters to win the election. And so with the internet, I really believe that, and a lot of people believe, there's a thing called civic tech, which is like, how can we do government and politics better with the internet? So I built an app. Other people are building apps. But if you go to stump.vote, Stump is an app concept that I've created around ballot initiatives. So I was recently re-energized to build a new version of that for this election. So you can go on there and see all the ballot initiatives. We have 14 this year in Colorado, and some of them are really confusing. And instead of looking at advertising, you can look at facts and also share your opinion. So that's one project that I'm excited about creating, as well as figuring out what we're going to do about climate change and stuff.
Say the name of the app again.
Stump, STUMP .VOTE, stump.vote, like a tree stump. But to stump is a verb that means to advocate for a political candidate or opinion.
Okay, we have time for maybe another question or two. You can ask Megan too, if she would like, you have a question for Megan, oops.
Well, I just want to say thank you all for being here today and for your bravery and telling your stories and creating this really beautiful, impactful film. I wanted to ask you, Brian, you said this is your first film that you're in film school. Are you looking to make another film? And if so, what would you want it to be about?
Thanks, yeah, I actually went to film school like 20 years ago. But this was like a 6-year grad program essentially. So this is my first feature, and yeah, kind of what I was mentioning, like, we have this belief, a lot, especially activists, that we can live without fossil fuels. Like, we did it for 100,000 years. We can live without fossil fuels. And what is that going to look like? That's obviously a scary thing. We've become very addicted to comfort and this idea of progress, right? But evolution is trying to tell us, like, actually you're regressing, you're destroying your habitat. That's a cancerous thing to do, so don't do that, So this period of our human evolution is very similar to like the Enlightenment period. It's like we have the internet and we're killing our planet. And what are we going to do in this next 10, 50 years? Because everything's accelerating, population, carbon in the atmosphere. So this is like an incredibly special time to be alive, you might say. And if you don't think that, then like things are going to be very surprising very soon. So that's what my film's going to be about. It's like anybody that's kind of curious about what the heck's going on. And I do a lot of nature. Ultimately it's about nature. Like, we come from nature, we are not separate from nature. Anyone that thinks that humans and nature are separate, that's the fundamental confusion. And that's the path back. Yeah.
Well, oops, one more question?
Yeah, Brian, my question's kind of for you about how the story is obviously ongoing and you worked on it for so long. At what point, do you set down the camera and decide to put this into post and because obviously the fight is still being fought and eventually you have to just end the film and tell the story. So how did you, at what point was it that you decided, okay, I have enough to tell the story and make it?
Yeah, thanks for asking. For any filmmakers, like, it's really, really hard to know how to make a documentary, because you're taking all of existence and trying to tell a hero's journey kind of arc of a story. And so yeah, I filmed 2018. The ballot initiative in 2018. Elections make for great stories because there's a clear climax. But when they lost, I was like, that's not the story. That can't be it. We're supposed to win. Have you seen the movie? And so that was very confusing. And then I started to edit, but then out of nowhere, you know, that bill, SB 181 in 2019 happened. So I was like, okay, now it's time to shoot some more. And that was this whole other arc of a journey of like, how does that bill? Because there's all these ups and downs that I had to cut out because the audience can only handle so many kind of like roller coaster bumps. So I filmed that in 2019, and then I tried to edit, and it was just like impossible. I had no idea where to start. I had like a 5-minute section of an interview, moment, and I was like, no idea where to start. And then I worked on that app for a while because I was like, that's alive for me. And it wasn't until the pandemic where I kind of just like isolated myself in this cabin in Paonia that I was like, I'm not going back to Boulder until I have an edit, you know. And because I wanted to move on with my life, I wanted to like go to law school or do something. And I said, I can't move on with my life until I finish this film. And then editing didn't take 8 months, it took 3 years. But it kept getting better and better and better, and I kept getting feedback like, this is good, but like not good enough, like keep going. And I was devastated because I was like, it's not good enough, but so that's the thing, that's the problem, is like it could be a sequel, it could be episodic, like it could have been, as you saw, it was like all these different things weaving together, and I thought maybe it was episodes, but ultimately I figured a 90-minute film is easier than episodes because the structure of that is a little more concise. And once you have someone in an audience, it's kind of easier just to tell a story versus like at the end of episode 1, you got to have a hook, and at episode 2, come back for episode 3. So I could happily chat with you more about how I went about structuring it and stuff, but yeah, it took like 14 restructurings of the film to figure out like how to tell this complicated story. And yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody more outside. Thank you all for being here, and please follow us and share the story with the community. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, like this video, and check out earthdogfilms.com for more exclusive content.